Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Rink Moose Hockey Podcast, a weekly episodic podcast where two good friends get together around a table and talk all things in the realm of hockey and the world of fantasy hockey. I'm your host, Kyle Neese, and I'm joined by my illustrious teammate, Nicholas Kostu. Nick, how are you doing today?
Honestly, lots of errors there.
Yeah.
I won't pick it apart too hard because it's your first time, but it's a building block. It's a good starting point.
Thank you.
It is episode 37, just to clarify for the audience.
Oh, yeah.
We can't forget that.
Forgot about that. Big time.
And a very special episode because we're finally back in the studio here in the lovely city of Toronto.
Rink Moose studio.
Weather is clearing up. Glad to be back. And hey, it's a big episode. I mean, we're here to wrap up the first round. Haven't got into that just yet. We're here to open up the second round, which just got underway the other night. So quite a lot of ground to cover this week in this much anticipated live edition of the podcast.
There is indeed, Nick, and just to give the viewers a sense of the anarchy that was the first round of the NHL playoffs, and I'm sure this needs no introduction. Let me go through our little bracket challenge that we had going here. Rink Moose, the professionals. So, Nick, I think you had 2 correct out of 8.
Wow.
And that's better than most. I had 2 correct out of 8, and I have 0 opportunity to improve my points. Our best picker was Dante Delfico, who joins us today, and he had 3 picks correct, which is extremely impressive. And I think that will crush the median in terms of everybody out there who's picked these stupid brackets. So much so that the NHL has, in the first time in their history, issued a second, a redo of the bracket challenge, which is, I mean, it just goes to show anything that you thought going into these playoffs, all the analytics folks out there, take a hike. As Pierre Maguire says, this is a character sport in the playoffs. And the analytics folks can suck one.
And speaking of Pierre, I had a few conversation points this week that kind of go away from just the games, but they're related in a way. And the first thing I wanted to touch on is this is conclusive as to why certain pundits in the hockey universe, Pierre Maguire, Bob McKenzie, do not do predictions. My theory is it's years like this which they have nightmares of. Because they don't want to jeopardize their, this Bob McKenzie status. Everyone thinks this guy's a genius. But if he starts making predictions and gets them wrong like this, then his reputation plummets.
Absolutely.
Bobby Mack, the Dark Canuck, eats shit. So here we are. And this I finally realized why guys like this don't do predictions. Do you believe in this theory of mine?
It's a great theory. I'd like to liken it to a Wayne Gretzky at the ripe age of 50 years old, strapping on the skates in an NHL game and getting torched. Why the hell would he do that? He's got this legacy to maintain. You don't want to muddy your legacy. And right now, Bob's got this this aura about him that he's just this all-knowing Bob father. And it's silly to lower himself to these endeavors when it's just not an exact science.
And meanwhile, I do not have the clip on hand, but I'll tell you what, after the first round was over, Pierre was on the Ottawa radio. And when the hosts were like, "Oh, Pierre, it's unprecedented year. It's a brutal year for all these favorites," Pierre said, "Oh, well, I had this team winning, and I had this team as the favorite, so I'm not too surprised there." So, hey, hindsight is always 20/20, and there is Pierre. When you don't make predictions, you can always play the hindsight card, and you look like a genius.
Pierre has modeled his career off playing the hindsight card. I'd love for you to, or anybody, to bring me clips of Pierre making these predictions. So-called non-prediction maker is bragging about his predictions on radio. Oh, I had this team. You heard me on radio over here. Meanwhile, he's probably saying a whole other thing to the next radio station. So I'm not buying bullshit out of Pierre Maguire's mouth. In this case, Nick, this is a load of trash.
I expected that response.
It's dog trash.
And as a Pierre lover, I kind of felt the same way. But
no one had this. Let's be honest. Come on, nobody had this.
No. I mean, no. They can run the statistics. I want someone at the NHL Network who's had all these brackets submitted, just like the NCAA does it for Final Four. Tell me if someone got this bracket right to this point.
Yeah,
because I can't believe anybody.
I don't
did.
think so. What before we dive in here, Nick, I just want to clarify this. I want to get this out there. As long as it's not Boston or St. Louis, what's great about this year is a very wholesome team will win the Stanley Cup.
Oh, so St. Louis isn't a wholesome team?
No.
Why not?
Just not for me.
Well, that's subjective.
Yes.
I'm saying objectively they're a wholesome team. Last place in the NHL, January 3rd.
Yeah,
come on. That's
okay,
wholesome.
Objectively, they're wholesome, but just not for me. Like, any other team wins, and I'm going, good for you.
Okay.
I'm happy for this franchise. Okay. But the St. Louis Blues, for personal reasons, a lot of those reasons are sitting right across from me. I can't be happy.
Well, and the other thing that's related to this that I want to touch on is a part of me, when I was thinking about this the other night, was why does the regular season even mean anything anymore? Like, why not just shut your brain off for all 82 games, wipe hockey out of your life, get up for playoffs, and then watch every playoff game, and you'll wake up just like the fan who sat through all 82 games. I want you to give me the debate for why I should watch regular season hockey, because I'm on the verge of quitting watching regular season hockey.
Well, you know what, Nick? It's a great question that this of all years raises that debate even more intensely. There was a quote out there, I forget who it was from, but it said, the regular season is where players make their money, and the playoffs is where players make their legacy. The only solid concrete answer I can give you is we watch the regular season to get a sense of who these players are and to enjoy the game. To enjoy the game itself, not necessarily taking stock so much into it that we can predict winners in the Stanley Cup playoffs, but seeding's important. These teams do have something to prove throughout the regular season. They have to show a level of consistency. A team that can show consistency is generally very well managed, very well coached, and has players that buy in. So in all intents and purposes, it's generally a good source of knowledge for these crazy playoffs. It's just we're seeing a crazy year. But for me, the regular season mostly is I want my team to be in the playoffs. I don't necessarily care where they finish. And I want to see some beautiful hockey. I want to enjoy the game.
Yeah, sure. It's just there's a part of me that's like, why did I bother sitting through all those 82 games, dissecting the teams, making notes when I'm just going 2 for 8?
Right.
And I'm sure the Ray Ferraros and the Craig Buttons of the world feel the same way. It's like a waste of my time, and now I look like a clown. And we'll get into more clowns later on in this show. But
Absolutely.
the point is, it's got me thinking. And
especially all those Tampa fans out there who probably were talking a bunch of shit online. Hey guys, we're the fucking greatest.
No, they're modest. They're modest.
Well, some guys perhaps were.
Lots of them are
saying
modest.
That, and then boom, they get fucking snubbed. They're probably thinking your line of thinking times 100 right now.
Right.
I can't imagine how that fan base, which is they want it to be growing, can go through that season and say, hey guys, don't worry, we'll be at them next year.
Right.
Like, I don't trust you. Even if you set another record, I don't trust you. So it's tough.
And another fan base, and I think this will be a good segue to the first matchup we want to get into to conclude the first round.
Yeah.
The much publicized, much talk about first round of the Leafs versus Bruins. And I'm sure a ton of Leaf fans are telling themselves that exact same thing. Fuck the regular season. It's all about the playoffs.
And boy, the curse is real Remember my my little segment on the hockey gods and bad karma?
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't thinking that because we watched Game 7 at this nice Boston pizza. I wasn't thinking that until right now. Now that I remember, but I mean, listen, I was watching that game, and at the end of the day, that's where everything started to make sense. Boston made pretty much zero mistakes. Toronto made 2 blunders. Travis Dermott and Jake Gardiner made 2 obvious blunders, and it was in the back of the net. That's a 2-1 game, Nick. No one player on either side really took control of the game. No one stepped up. This wasn't a Bergeron march to the finish. This wasn't Austin Matthews taking over. It wasn't John Tavares' show. It was 2 mistakes were made, and the game's over. This was not a heroic Game 7. This was not a glamorous Game 7. This was Boston played mistake-free hockey, and Toronto, as we knew from the regular season, had those defensive blunders, and they cost them. And I hate to say it, but Gardner's wearing the horns again. Dermott will get a pass because he's young, and of course Gardner's going to wear these horns because that poorly timed reverse play behind the net, and it's a shame.
So he's gone? It's over?
He's gonna have to take a steep discount to stick around. If I'm Gardner,
do you want to come back?
I'm out.
Yeah.
Why would I want to come back? I'm not trusted around here. I'm ridiculed by this fan base.
Yeah.
I want a fresh start. I know I'm a good player. Gardner's a good player, and I think if he gets a fresh start, people are gonna see him for who he really is, which is exactly that. So if I'm Gardner, I mean, I don't care how much. That's what we'll have to consider is how much does he like the city and the players around him. But
sure.
If I'm Gardner, I'm going. All things considered.
And just 2 things on this series that I want to touch on before it escapes my mind. One being, I can't help but feel like I can't really yes, those 2 blunders in Game 7 that cost them the series. But if I'm going to remember one thing from the series, for me, it's Game 6 and not winning in Game 6. I swear to God, I woke up that Sunday morning. I found out the game was in the afternoon. It was on home ice. A part of me, when I woke up that morning, felt like they're going to get over the hump today. This is the day. I felt like that. And I watched CBC's coverage before the game. Ron McLean gave this great speech before they hit the ice, ending with something along the lines of, quote, "This is their moment." Like he said that before they stopped on the ice. And I'm like, they're winning this game. They're doing this. Riley scores the goal. I'm like, it's happening. It's done. The ridicule, the finger pointing, it's done. This team is going to get over the bump. And they take a stupid penalty. Stupid goal goes in off a guy's shin pad and past the goalie. A few minutes later, they take another penalty. It's 2-1. And that to me is the swing moment of this series. I think the Leafs were on a trajectory going right on. Perfect Game 5. You take the lead going into home. You can close it out at home. You don't have to go to that godforsaken building at TD Garden anymore. And shit hits the fan 10 minutes into the first period. They had it, and they dropped the ball.
Yeah.
You concur?
They started great. And then, from what I can gather, it was all Boston until the third, in which, I mean, Toronto showed a great pushback, and this is what gave me so much hope for Game 7, that Toronto was surging, and late in the third, from I think the 10-minute period moment onwards, Matthews was firing, and it was looking so good in this momentum, and Riley looked so dynamic back there. I left that game thinking, you know what, if they can carry this momentum, then we've got a chance. This is a blown opportunity, but I'm not out of this yet. But it just didn't materialize. So it was a blown opportunity. They lost it in the second period. They started well, and then they fumbled. They lost focus. So it's a shame. We
don't disagree there. And then I think the other thing we need to touch on is the Babcock character.
Highly contested.
So yeah, it was the Game 7 was the night before my exam, my final exam at school. I write the exam. Everyone goes out that night, and the whole talk at this party is about Babcock and how he has dropped the ball and how he lost the game for them. Everyone I spoke to who was passionate about this team was telling me he needs to go. It's on him. How I was right. I was telling all these people in October about how he was an overrated coach and how he gets too much respect for not doing much, having not won a series, having only won one series in the past 8 years or some shit like that. I was right on this, and everyone was telling me that, and they were all saying he's got to go. Do you concur? They pointed to the ice time thing. They pointed to how he utilized Marleau, Gauthier, all these pieces, how he wasn't desperate enough, how Butch Cassidy played his top line when he
stop with the Butch.
No,
Cassidy.
I'm going to call him Butch Cat because he deserves to be called that because he smoked Babcock in this series. He's aggressive. He overplays his top players. He overplays them on the power play. He leaves them out there when they're tired and they score goals. He's aggressive. Babcock was a bitch, overly conservative. Do you agree or disagree?
Mike Babcock is like a poor stepfather. A guy that comes into your life late and he acts like he's never wrong. He's a stubborn character.
Yes.
And even though you tell him, Mike, listen, things might be better this way, he'll go, nope, that's wrong, and it's wrong because I say so. So what we saw, well, let's get into some of these things. Austin Matthews played 18-40 in Game 7. Patrick Marleau was on the ice with 2 or 3 minutes to go, even though he's had a very rough series. What else are they talking about? Kadri's
The fourth line, you talked about that?
The fourth line, they were pretty good.
He got two, but they had the puck in the opposition zone, but they didn't generate anything. There was no high quality scoring chance that Gauthier had. He wasn't going to score.
Right, and I mean, I looked down the bench at Nick Patan. That's a hell of a player you got, and he didn't see the ice at all. I think Babcock is. And the problem with me, and put all this aside, the problem with me is he did not admit any blame.
Yes, I was just about to say that.
When all was said and done, everyone took a little piece of this pie, including Dubas.
You heard that, eh?
Yeah.
The end of the season interviews. I love that shit.
Yeah.
It's a day of no hockey, just drama, and
Just
I love
drama.
that shit.
Clean out your lockers.
Clean
and
out your
let's
lockers
talk.
and talk
Yeah.
shit.
And did you hear the little interview at Babcock got pissed post game? They're like, one guy asked him, "Did you? So you played Marleau with 3 minutes to go. What was your thinking behind that, knowing he hasn't played very well?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah." He was getting all defensive. He was getting all like, I was like, "Oh my god, is he gonna fight this guy?" And it's a bad look for him. I think he's a fantastic coach. I just think that he will only succeed if he has his key pieces. If he has his Team Canada genetic, if he has his Team Canada DNA, his Detroit of old, if he's got his key pieces, I think Babcock can succeed. But I don't think he's malleable enough to adapt into a role where he's not comfortable. He's made it clear he hasn't liked this roster. He's made it clear he wants to add more heaviness. But it's Dubas's team, and if he can't adjust to what Dubas wants, then he's not Toronto's coach. I'm sorry. I think he's a great coach if he gets exactly what he wants. But you need to be able to adjust, my friend. I mean, you're not the general manager. So in that case, I think he's failed. So if he doesn't switch that up, then I say he's not the right coach for Toronto. But I'm not willing to close the door on him this coming year.
Yeah, I guess it is a little premature because at the end of the day, you ask yourself, who can replace him, right? Who's the replacement and how can he do any better, right?
Right.
So that's a big factor here. And going back to the whole Dubas-Babcock thing, I just loved how Dubas handled himself.
Oh, always.
For so courteous for such a young man to stand up there and just every reporter who asked him a question, he'd always mention that person's name. Oh, well, here, John. I mean, this. Oh, here. Yes, Ben, I understand what you're saying. Da, 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 da. Like, he was so great and courteous with everything he said. And meanwhile, Babcock just disrespects everyone.
Yeah.
Dubas is saying, Nylander, that was my fault. The fact things haven't progressed with Marner yet, my fault. He was fault. He must have said it's my fault 4 or 5 times in that interview. I don't know if that's a bad thing or a good thing, because it means you're a shitty GM, but at the same time, you're just being an honest, good chap. Whereas Babcock's just the fucking opposite. Not once did he say, I'm being held accountable for this.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm always impressed with how Dubas handles himself in the media. But I got to mention to the viewers here that Nick over here, he's sitting here with a Hartford Whalers jersey on with the tags hanging off his wrist. So I'm just so confused on why you're keeping those things
right out
on.
of the bag. I literally had no time between coming home and seeing this jersey in my room.
Man, I wouldn't even put the thing on without taking the damn tags off. Like, how are you sitting here with your...
Hey, you guys I showed up. You guys showed up the next second, and I wanted to put this jersey on.
Holy hell.
Until this show's off.
Wow.
Okay. Leafs discussion's over.
Over. Put it to rest for the rest of the year.
I briefly want to touch on the final 2 Canadian teams that were ousted. I don't want to go too in depth here, but I want to quickly close out St. Louis Jets, as well as Colorado Calgary.
Right.
Takeaways, disappointments. What ruffled your feathers in these two series?
Well, let's start with Calgary, and I know we went in depth on this on the last episode, but now the series has ended in 5 games, and my main takeaway, a huge soundbite from your eventual Norris winner, Mark Giordano. He basically put the NHL on watch. He said, if you guys don't think Nathan MacKinnon is a top NHL talent, you better take a look at this series, because you're dead wrong. Now, Nick, let me ask you this. Is that comment from Giordano respect or an excuse? Do you admire that kind of praise for a guy who just beat you, or do you kind of sours
When he talked about MacKinnon?
Yeah. Does that rub you the wrong way at all?
I don't think so.
Disrespect?
I think it's just, respect from a very prideful guy. And I think
Right.
everyone knows him to be that guy. He's the captain of that organization. I don't think you expect the captain of a team to throw shade.
No.
I think you expect him to be honest, an honest chap. And when he sees excellence, he's going to admit it, and he's gonna congratulate the guy. Because I don't see anything wrong with that.
Pure veteran move.
Pure veteran move. Class.
Next thing I really want to... This is a main storyline. The disappearing act of Calgary's top line. Monahan, Lindholm, and especially Gaudreau have just disappeared. And someone said, I think it was Jeff O'Neill, the O-Dog on TSN, he said, can we call him Johnny Hockey anymore?
No.
Can we even call this guy Johnny Hockey? You know what? I've seen several times now this guy just pull a Casper on us and disappear like a ghost in these playoffs. He wasn't just bad, and I said this before, he was to a point where the puck was on his stick and he would fumble the thing. He wouldn't even get it off properly. The thing would just jump off his stick. I think he was scared out of his mind. I think the matchup between him and MacKinnon, he was in way over his head. He's like, I have to compare myself to this guy, and he's looking lights out. So this guy's mentality just went through the fucking toilet. And once Gaudreau lost his confidence, Monahan and Lindholm followed suit. So when that was done, it was like the tower has fallen, and there was just no picking it back up. The last thing I want to say is Matthew Tkachuk scared me for about 1 game. And this guy was my X factor in this series. If Colorado was to lose, I thought it would be this guy, but the intensity kind of petered out after that first game there.
Gaudreau, he missed on that breakaway, correct? Like he just missed the net?
Cale Makar has more goals than
How's
Johnny
that
Gaudreau.
happen?
Yeah.
I'm not a forward. How do you miss the net? From like the hash, not even from the fucking in front of the net, you missed the net.
Yeah. I'm telling you, this guy was not in his right mind.
How do you do that?
His confidence
What
was
happened?
shot.
Like physically, the stick...
No one can explain it, Nick.
It makes no sense.
He was terrible.
I watched
Terrible.
that clip. He just shook his head, didn't even back check on the way back, and then
No.
they scored on the opposition run on the other side of the ice.
Yeah. He was terrible.
Terrible. I've lost a lot of respect for him as a player.
Agreed.
I will not be keeping him in my fantasy league this year.
After a career year.
I'm gonna keep Ovechkin and Marchand instead.
Wow.
instead of him. He did not
Bold
make the cut.
pick.
Bold pick. And I was not impressed with him. And I gotta say, I did not get into this with Cale Makar last time. This kid has character through the roof.
Yes.
I heard interviews with him. He is so great. He's such a class act.
Tell me in particular, because I don't think I've heard these.
Well, there's nothing in particular. There's no single moment I can.
You just know.
He's so confident with how he talks that he's not overly confident and just a prick. He's just a genuine good chap, Canadian chap. He's just he's not dumb either. Like, he's a smart kid, you can tell,
really
who got
smart.
through school. I wish I knew what he majored in. Like, he seems like a very smart kid. And even Pierre, when they mentioned that to him, Pierre would not shut up about his character. Because when Pierre was going through his testicular cancer, when he was going through his cancer in Boston, he went a lot to see him play.
Who, Pierre?
Pierre, when he was recovering through his cancer, he saw Cale play a lot. And they'd talk a lot, him and Cale, during that period. And he wouldn't shut up. They had a camaraderie, Kyle. I know you don't want to believe this, but they're very tight, the two of them. And he would not shut up about how Cale was so respectful of him and his condition during that time, and how they were just getting along, and how he wouldn't, like, he was just a very smart chap, and he just loved the kid. So when Pierre's talking about glowing character, I think you got to read into that.
Well, I seriously can't remember if I mentioned this before, but Cale has this unique characteristic that comes across in interviews and sometimes on the ice, where he's got this robotic nature to him. It's like nothing. He's got a Carey Price nature to him, where big moments don't faze him. I think I heard something about Gabe Landeskog picked him up for his first NHL playoff game, and he goes, "Hey, how you doing, Cale?" And he goes, "Not bad. How are you?" He just gave a totally cool response. So this guy's cool as a cucumber,
That's
just
great.
like Carey Price.
That is great.
And just to mention on the smart thing, I read an article on him in The Athletic, and it said when he was young, he wanted to be one of two things: an NHL hockey player or an engineer.
Nice.
So he's always had great
Nice.
grades, and I know he's actually won NCAA Scholastic Player
Wow.
of the Week.
Wow.
At least once.
Wow.
At least once.
I like this kid even more. This is good. This is groundbreaking material. He is working up the power rankings.
Why the fuck does that?
How many guys?
How
in the
does
league,
that rub you this hard?
How many guys in the league can I say have won Scholastic awards?
Not many, I guess.
I'm an aspiring lawyer, and to hear that is just something else.
I mean, myself personally, I just kind of read this and glanced over and moved
shut
on
up.
pretty quick. But
no,
you know.
you score 50 goals in 3 straight years. Are you in Scholastic Awards? I care more about the Scholastic Awards.
Holy
Thumbs up to Cale. Congratulations to Cale Makar, as Ray Ferraro would say.
Yeah, and we can't wait to get into that series later. But
Yes.
let's move on.
Move
over
on.
To Winnipeg.
Jets and Blues. Quick here. Crazy, because we had the podcast last episode. It was during that game.
I think we
finished.
Game
We
4?
finished. It was Game 5 in Winnipeg. They finished the game. We go off the air. There's 5 minutes left on the game. I go, perfect timing. I'm not even heading home. I'm sitting in the office. I'm turning this on.
This was the backbreaker.
It was the backbreaker. Literally, as I turn it on, Sundqvist scores the goal. It goes to replay because the net's knocked off. That's the turning point. We talked about turning points. Game 6, Boston, Toronto, and the power plays. This was the turning point in this series. Winnipeg had the series. Dunzo.
Yeah.
He scores on the break he creates. And then out of fucking nowhere, Tyler Bozak, which I know the Overdrive boys gave him shit for this play. Total, like he's teeing up a drive on the golf course. Just tosses the puck in front of the net, hoping for something to happen with 15 seconds left in the game. The pass isn't even across the ice. It's fucking 8 inches off the ice. Not 12 inches off the ice. And this hits Jaden Schwartz. He fucking bats it with his stick? Is that right?
I think so.
And he just magically bats it off his stick. If you did this like 10 times to Jaden Schwartz, he doesn't do this. He only does this once every 10 times. And he just happened to do it this time. It's the game winner. And quite frankly, I think it ended the series. Because you go back to the St. Louis game, I think they had like 8 shots on goal through the first 2 periods. They looked destroyed. They looked phased, dazed, and confused. It was a tragedy, and I think that's when the game got away from them. The series got away from them.
Yep. And something we touched on is the winner of that game 6 or
Game 5.
The team to go up 3-2 is going to win the series because it's just too hard in that tight series. So my main takeaway here is Jaden Schwartz has really impressed.
Oh, you like him now? He's in your good books. So
He's really impressed me.
Nick wouldn't shut up about him, and now you see what he's talking about.
I'll say I would give you that credit if it was Ryan O'Reilly.
Before that game, I said this man in our preview show. I said this man can run a line by himself.
You didn't say that.
I did.
I don't remember.
I go back in the tapes.
I don't remember. But no, I gotta give this guy credit. We all know he had the hat trick in that game 7, but I mean, even the highlight against frickin' Dallas the other day, like this guy is extremely impressive. It just didn't go right for Winnipeg at the end of the day. Their top players played pretty good, but I think St. Louis has this strange magic to them, at least for now, where it was going to take more than Winnipeg to douse the Flames. So I don't have too much to say about it. I'm disappointed. That was my cup pick, which is fucking horrible. So yeah, we've got a lot to talk about in San Jose, Vegas. So let's mosey.
Yeah, I mean I'd love to talk more about the St. Louis team, given those are my boys. Those are my team. That's my team. Mm-hmm. And, we'll get into it with their preview with the next series.
Yeah, the good thing is they're still around.
They're still around, so we'll get to talk about them an ample amount.
Yeah.
Final series correct.
No. We still have to talk
Vegas, San Jose.
Washington. Carolina.
Oh, fuck.
I know.
That's coming from the guy wearing the Carolina jersey right now.
I know.
Okay. So, Carolina and Washington.
Right.
I was getting sloshed this evening, so I did not know what happened at all.
Okay.
I watched the condensed game. To me,
did you watch the highlights of the condensed game?
The condensed game.
Good for you.
I don't watch highlights. I watch condensed games.
How long does that take?
8 minutes. 10 minutes.
Pretty good.
Something like that.
Pretty good.
Anyways, the way I saw it, Braden Holtby let his team down. That's my storyline. I saw the first goal by Aho. It looked like me during shinny. Like,
did you see him? He not only was the rebound bad, but he fucking what the fuck?
Yeah, he
was
lifted
that?
When the shot's coming. He lifted his pad in the air.
What was that?
And the puck was under the pad.
Yeah.
So if he just left the pad in normal position, he would have saved it. Is that right?
If he was paralyzed,
he would have saved it.
He would have.
That was odd.
Saved
so
it.
the rebound was odd. Like it's like you can't catch it with your mitt. Like you have a fucking catcher's mitt for a reason. Catch the puck.
Yeah.
It's coming at you. Like it's not even a fast shot. It's like he fucking fanned on the shot and he can't even catch it. And then, like you said, the rebound was disastrous.
Disaster.
I'm trying to think of the other goals against.
Oh, against Holtby?
There was one more I didn't like. The third goal. The third
Jordan
goal.
Stahl.
Yes, from the bad angle. He was overplaying to one side and it beat him on the far side.
He just entered the blue line and it was far side.
I did not like that at all.
No, he had tons of room on the left side.
Those two goals were odorous.
Odorous.
Like in Washington, to be fair, Washington was in control. Like
they had a good
up
game.
2-0.
They had a good game.
Going into the Aho goal, they're up 2-0. Right? They're up 3-1 after that Kuznetsov snipe. Just hold the fort together, man.
Yeah.
And he couldn't do it.
It's sad.
It's very sad when this is a guy who's won a cup. This is a team that beat Tampa in Game 7 last year. They were down 3-2. They had to win a Game 6 and a Game 7 against John Cooper's Tampa Bay Lightning last year. And they did it. And they couldn't beat this ragtag group of schmucks from Carolina. I was fat. I saw the score when I woke up the next morning. Double overtime 4-3. I was shocked. And when I saw the highlights, I'm like, this is on Holtby.
Absolutely. And we even saw, we had Kuznetsov shooting that goal, and we had Ovi putting up probably the goal of the playoffs. That thing was a thing of beauty. It was cut from God's fucking chapel. That was unreal. So from all I can see, everyone in Washington showed up. Holtby didn't show up. And then let's not sugarcoat it. The overtime winner was nothing against Holtby or anything. It was kind of a fluky play. We saw Mr. Game 7 work a little bit of magic here. But the fact that they're in that overtime, it's on him. 2 yucky, disgusting goals. So I'm super, super over the moon about this, Nick. I'm so happy Washington is cut. Because if Pittsburgh's down, fuck Washington. And I think they've had their time. And like we said, this is a wholesome team that's moving forward. This is a team of just full-on characters. And you know what? We'll bring it back all the way to the Andrei Svechnikov fight. This is where everything turned around. They were down. They were seriously getting pounded to the ground. After that fight, this team just turned into a whole new team. So who knows how far they can take it? I know they've won tonight, 1-0, and I'm sure we'll get into that series very shortly. But good for them and Holtby. Check yourself.
In their defense, though, and I don't know if this changes Holtby, if you change the blame on Holtby, but I mean they did lose the TJ Oshie. That's critical. He's critical. That's a top 3 player on your team. Yeah. Right. Him, Backstrom, Ovechkin, Kuznetsov. Him. That you can't lose that.
Sure.
Like that's the equivalent of Toronto losing someone very significant, like
Kadri.
No, like a Matthews.
No.
Yes.
No, it's not the same.
Yes.
It's not the same. Matthews is their one.
He's their third best player. Matthews is Toronto's third best player. Washington's quasi third best player is Oshie.
But Matthews is a guy that can literally take over a game.
Let's negate that.
Yeah,
the point is they lost him. Gotcha. They lost Kempny, who was a top pairing defenseman, believe it or not. Maybe not a flashy name, but he played a role in their run last year. Mm-hmm. You lose those 2, I immediately have doubts about your chances of winning the cup. Apparently Oshie was going to be out long term. So I even if they did advance, I wasn't too optimistic about them. I made that prediction about them making a run, but that was with Oshie healthy. So, I look back at it. He got injured. I guess it kind of makes sense Carolina won. And one last thing, I loved the Mrazek Brind'Amour hug. The first thing Mrazek does when they win the game in overtime is skate to Brind'Amour and hug him.
I thought he did like he skated towards the group and slid on his stomach like a dummy.
He went to Brind'Amour. The shot was him hugging Rod Brind'Amour.
Oh, that's great.
How often do you see a goalie in his sweaty equipment hug the coach?
That's great.
That's great. There's something about that. Just body. We're not in the dressing room. We don't know what these conversations are like. Mm-hmm. But just seeing that as a viewer, I'm like, this is something different than other teams. Like no other team would do that. Martin Jones doesn't hug Pete DeBoer at the game-winning goal. He doesn't.
No.
That camaraderie doesn't exist. So I was so happy to see that. I love how Brind'Amour coached Justin Williams. I think that's the coolest thing in the world. Or no, they played together on the Stanley Cup winning team, and now he's coaching Williams. There's storylines there I just fucking love.
And he's the captain.
Yes.
To the coach. Yes. Those guys. Yeah.
It's so great.
It's probably a great room.
They have that pig who they tailgate with before the games.
Who the fuck is that?
It's awesome. Like so many things about this fan base I love. The state of Carolina. This jersey I'm wearing right now. I am a Carolina Hurricanes fan.
Cool. So that's your team out of the East? We'll get into it later.
Yeah, final series, most important series. I want to take the lead on this one. May I?
No, before you do that, I just want to quickly mention that Slavin was...
What?
Slavin,
yes. 9 points, 7 games?
Had about 8 assists in 7 games, which is a record.
9 points, yeah.
I think it's a record for Carolina, and maybe perhaps even some sort of other record. But incredible, and we've been tooting this guy's horn for a while. Mm-hmm. Incredible defenseman, totally underrated. Brett Pesci's another guy, but Slavin was incredible. So watch out for him coming up.
Vegas San Jose.
Wow.
Everything going into this game was awesome.
Wow.
We had, in the afternoon, we had the trash talk between the coaches. We already had trash talk in the series between Thornton and Reeves about, how one guy can't see, how he's getting old, how he's 40 years old, how Evander Kane took him to took him all the way with that fight, there was trash talking already. And then the coaches get into it. So much so that Gerard Gallant has the stomach to call the mastermind Pete DeBoer a clown in public. What did you think, Kyle?
I thought I thought he was kind of acting like a baby.
DeBoer or Gallant?
Gallant,
the whole series.
Yeah, he showed me a side of him that was kind of like immature, and he was losing a bit of control here because they were talking about how he was chirping the players on the San Jose side, and from all I can see, like he was definitely talking to those players, and I don't think it's a very professional look. No, I'm definitely not on the side of Gallant in this little feud here that you're talking about.
Yeah, you have no reason to be chirping players. We've talked about this. The players work fucking 30 times as hard as you do. You don't do shit all. I love the Ferraro quote. It's amazing how powerful you get when you step 3 feet off the ice and put on a suit.
Oh,
that was the
good
quote, and that's so true. This
good
guy feels empowered because he's the coach of this team, and so he's fucking chirping Logan Couture because he's taking pucks to the mouth and his chiclets are sitting on the ice. Give me a break.
Yeah, not to mention he was really giving it to the referees as well, which also wasn't a good look, and in just a totally sarcastic manner. So
the puck drops. Game 7 underway after that dud of a game between Boston and Toronto. Thank God we got this one.
I just want to rewind just quickly is that Thomas Hurdle predicted the Game 7.
Not so fast. Apparently there were some language issues.
Language?
He doesn't. His English isn't very good.
Oh.
The way DeBoer construed it was this was a guy whose English is his second language. He didn't mean that, and he didn't make the guarantee. That's what DeBoer said. Kind of to lower expectations.
Sounds
going
like
into Game
PR
7.
work.
I loved it. But anyways, we'll move on.
Okay.
Game 7. Honestly, 3-0 Vegas.
Pack it in.
I thought San Jose was the better team. I was going to have this conversation with you, Kyle. I was going to say of the Game 7s, Toronto was the better team and San Jose was the better team, and they both lost. That was kind of the rhetoric I was going to approach this show with.
Okay.
And San Jose, they were the better team. They had a bunch of scoring chances. Vegas, I thought that third goal was odorous by Martin Jones.
The Pacioretty one?
Yes. Okay. Along the ice, 5-hole.
It was tough, though.
No, too bad. You got to save that.
Yeah.
Your team's got to claw back. You can't claw back 3-0. But they did.
Shut up.
Listen, I got an exam the next day. I'm ready to hit the hay. My beloved Sharks are out. I'm totally conceding.
I can't believe you watched it.
I'm conceding the defeat.
Yeah.
But I stick through it. 10 minutes left. We all know it. The hockey world will not shut up about it. The cross-check to Joe Pavelski, the guy who took the puck to the face in Game 1, I presume he had a wound there, and maybe the wound reopened on his way to hitting the ice. Maybe that's what happened.
That was weird as shit.
It's a weird cross-check. The cross-check, by all accounts, is basically, it's one of those cross-checks that the refs don't call. It's just a casual cross-check. If they do call it, it's a 2-minute minor. Right. That's it. But most of the time in the playoffs, you don't call that in Game 7.
Yeah.
So he cross-checks him. He kind of does a weird flail, falls over Paul Stastny, who happens to be there.
He was going to another Paul Stastny was in the way of going somewhere else.
Yeah. And falls on the ice. His head's the second thing to fall on the ice after his shoulder. And next thing you know, he's bleeding from the head. And everyone's worried. I loved seeing Joe Thornton hold the towel on his head and help him off the ice. That's like what a doctor does, but Joe Thornton was doing it. Just great character.
It's very concerning.
Shows the camaraderie on that team.
Yeah.
And needless to say, they get the 5-minute call. And then in what I can only summarize as up there in the greatest moments of hockey I have ever seen.
Wow.
They take the game over 4-3. Kyle, I was prancing around my little apartment. I can't imagine. I was on my knees at some point. At the end of it, I shed a tear.
Wow.
I'm tearing up right now talking to you.
Wow.
I just shed a tear right now talking to you guys.
I'm glad.
This goal was right up there with Jordan Eberle.
No! Don't!
Jordan Eberle's goal and Crosby's golden goal to me.
Wow.
As a San Jose Sharks fan,
holy shit.
this was top 3.
Holy shit.
Where's the Kleenex?
It's right there. He's actually, oh my God. Ladies and gentlemen, Nicholas Costu has cried for the first time on the Rink Moose podcast. Yay!
It was amazing.
Oh, folks, this is a first. This is a first for Rink Moose.
How do you do that? How do you do that? They're down 3-0 with 10 minutes left. This amazing Vegas team who I picked to win the cup. I picked them to win the cup.
Yes, you did.
I went with my mind instead of my heart, and I regret it. That's
course.
why I'm crying right now, because I regret it.
Wow.
I jumped off the boat on this team when I shouldn't have.
Wow.
They persevered. I loved the reactions of the goals at the end of the LeBanc goal to make it 4-3. He does a Lambo leap into the Sharks bench. Like, this was stuff out of junior hockey in Game 7 of an NHL game. It was amazing. The Gord and Ferraro, I knew magic was going to happen when I found out they were calling the game, that it was going to be an amazing game. It was the perfect broadcast team to do the game. People were leaving the rink. Gord was talking about how the people behind him were gone. He was also talking about how the water next to him was shaking the whole time.
And his monitor, yeah.
It was so cool. And thank God they won that game, because if the Marchessault tying goal goes in and Vegas wins that game, it's all for nothing.
Yeah.
But I told you, Kyle, this team was going to win the cup when Pavelski took that puck off the face in Game 1.
Wow.
I told you. The first goal of this team's run in the playoffs is off a player's face into the net, and he has to leave the game.
Wow.
And then not only that, Couture he loses the most important body part in his entire body in Game 2. Am I right? He said he thought he lost his testicle.
Thought he did, but he didn't.
He thought he did.
Yeah.
Like, this is fucked, these stories you're hearing in this series. He loses the Chicklets 2 games later, and he ties up the game in Game 7. And you saw the body language after the first goal. That's 1. And then he scores the third. That's 3. And Thornton on the bench, you're reading all the things on The Athletic, how when they took the power play, he said, boys, we're getting fucking 3 goals here. Like, it was just magic. It was like movie. You can make a movie off this shit.
Wow.
Like I said, top 3 in my mind of those 2 moments. Eberle, Crosby, this. No particular order. It's right there in the top 3.
Amazing.
Done.
Yeah, and...
Oh, and one more thing. DeBoer proved he's an amazing coach. Barclay Goodrow doesn't see the ice that entire overtime. There's 2 minutes left. He throws Goodrow on the ice to surprise the other team. They're all tired. They're out of gas. Throws fresh legs on. Fucking skates by that Vegas defenseman. Scores the game winner.
Wow.
And Carlson, vintage Carlson.
Absolutely vintage.
The doubts are out the window. This guy's going to give you 100% for the playoffs.
Absolutely.
I'm going to shut up now and let you talk.
Nick, that was truly beautiful work. Perhaps your best work on this show. I saw a true fan come out of that Whalers jersey that you're wearing.
I should get my Sharks hat. It's
yeah.
just in my room.
So that was some beautiful stuff. This is what it's all about. I mean, he's wiping his eyes right now. It is truly what it's all about. You must have been just over the moon.
I could not fall asleep that night for like a couple hours.
No.
I was up till...
This is where you would love hockey Twitter. You'd be scrolling through and you'd be like,
No Twitter. I kept this to myself. This was me.
Well, that's not right, Nick.
No,
in these moments, you want to share it with someone, which is why I sympathize a little bit. But, I mean, I was obviously going for Vegas in this game, and I did not watch the game because I had a big day the next day, I'll be honest with you. But when I was watching these highlights, and this was in the morning, and, Dell was, milling around getting her shit done, I was like, and I kind of glanced at the score. I didn't really know what was going on.
You weren't watching the game?
I didn't watch the game.
Okay.
But when I watched the highlights, I didn't look at the score before I hit video. I sort of glanced at it, and I was like, no way. No, Dell, get over here. Come look at this. I'm like, this can't be happening. This is absolutely unbelievable what happened. Who stood out to me, Nick? Logan Couture has earned my respect in a major way.
Young kid from London, Ontario.
This guy got things going in a big way. He got that first goal. I think he got the third goal, and then it was just downhill from there. I mean, downhill in a good way, but. Man, if this Sharks team doesn't have some sort of fucking crazy resolve, I don't know who does. But all the heroics aside, and it was truly heroic. Carlson, I don't know what they did. They must have injected him with some sort of pain-numbing device because he was absolutely vintage. And this is why they got him. This is the general manager in a fucking Superman cape. In games like this, Erik Karlsson was fucking vintage. But we have to talk about it because we're an objective podcast. This 5-minute major should never have happened. And we know that. You mentioned it. It was more of a shove. Pavelski goes down, and for whatever reason, the refs decided to call it because of all the blood. But you know what we could chalk this up to, Nick? The hockey gods had other plans. This was somehow meant to be, and somehow he got into the rooms there, and he decided that, this team was meant to move forward. So what excites me the most is that we have a team that I'm extremely passionate about, and that you're extremely passionate about. All of a sudden, we're facing off. And it's going to be a
1-1 right
thirsty bloodbath. It's going to be amazing. And unfortunately, we're going to be in different parts of the country for most of this. But
we'll be back for the important part, I presume.
For Game 7, the inevitable Game 7.
The inevitable Game 7.
But yeah, no, super impressed. San Jose, I wrote them off. Obviously,
you hated this team.
I wrote them off.
You said this team's going to have to look in the mirror.
It was
you
3-1.
said that last episode. You said this team's gonna have a hard look in the mirror.
And I was
Joe Thornton's career is done. It was like you were done, so
man. I was looking correct until
and you wanted it to happen. Like the way tone of your voice was like you were glad.
No, I
hated
wanted to
this
rub
fucking
it in.
team.
Yes.
In November when they were playing like shit, you're like, oh, I love this juicy storyline with them playing like shit.
Martin Jones, you can't have confidence in this guy.
He did not look like Martin Jones. When he made that over-the-head glove save, I was like, that's not Jones. That's a Fleury save.
It's a phony.
He's stealing Fleury's identity here. He does not have that athleticism.
Question is...
I thought they were done in overtime. Jones looked so shaky, but he somehow stopped the puck.
Right. Now, the question is, do they have anything left emotionally?
Yeah, that's a problem.
Emotionally, they've come from Mount Everest. You got to come back to base camp now.
This segues well into predicting the series.
But yeah,
we've learned history it's very difficult to have such an emotional series, to go through those rigors emotionally and physically, and to be ready for the next round. We saw it with Boston-Toronto last year. Boston lays an egg against Tampa. It's more than just that. We see it year after year. Colorado, they had a swift road. 5 games. They confidently beat Calgary on the road. They've been sitting at their home eating for 7 days. Right?
Don't say eating chips.
I was going to say eating chips. I'm sorry.
I knew it.
I take that back. The point is, one team's rested, the other is just emotionally, physically destroyed, and that's what gives Colorado their advantage. At the same time, Calgary was not a veteran team. They did not have a ton of character. They don't seem like a team that can persevere in the playoffs, whereas the Sharks are the complete opposite. They deserve respect. They've clearly earned it through a series like this. They took out my Stanley Cup champion. If you take out my Stanley Cup champion, I immediately give you respect. Not to mention Vlasic, the man they call Pickles. I love that nickname. When DeBoer calls him Pickles in post-game press conferences, I love it.
Oh, my God.
And, hey, they were down 3-1, and that's because Pickles didn't play. And then Pickles comes back 3-2, 3-3. They win Game 7, all because of Pickles. He shut down that line, that top line of Vegas, and I think he's a huge part of this team, and I don't think it's getting enough attention.
It is not getting
ever
enough
since
attention.
He returned in that Vegas series, it was a different series. That Stone line quiet as fuck. You did not hear Stone lighting it up at all. He did not have that same confidence about him. He was not try-hard Stone. Vintage try-hard Stone. Because I think Pickles got under his skin.
Wow.
So that's huge for San Jose. I think they get the coaching edge. I think DeBoer will outclass Jared Bednar. They get home ice. In the Shark Tank, I fucking told you the Shark Tank was the best playoff atmosphere in this playoffs.
I have something to say about
that. Just paid off in that Game 7 with the water shaking. I'm sorry.
Nope. Not buying it.
There's just too much going here. This is my team. How can I not go with San Jose Sharks?
How many games?
The only thing that scares me is Nathan McKinnon abusing
you
Martin
better
Jones.
Be fucking scared. It's coming.
This is classic, and I've had this feeling where there's that really good player on the other team. He sees me making saves, and he's like, "This goalie's dusty. I can light him up." He looks out of it. Nathan McKinnon is going to get like 20 shot attempts every game because he just knows he can score on Martin Jones from center ice.
Yeah,
that's what he's going to say to himself.
So
that's the X factor here. If there's a matchup X factor, it's Jones v. McKinnon. That's it to me. If Jones steps up like he did in the Game 7 and make those over the head glove saves on McKinnon, then it's donezo. But if McKinnon abuses him, finds out he's shit, and abuses the fuck out of that relationship, it's done.
He knows.
You think he knows?
Oh, he knows.
He's sitting at home going, "This guy's dusty."
Yeah.
He can see it on the television.
He's been watching the series.
Okay.
Yeah.
So immediately he's going to have 20 shot attempts a game. He's probably got 10 shots in the game already.
Yeah.
That's the X factor to me, but I still think Jones's defense alongside Pickles will mitigate that. If you shut down Mark Stone, you're going to shut down Nathan McKinnon. That's the way I see it. Come on, Kyle.
Wow.
It's Stone. You shut down Stone. You can't shut down McKinnon?
Absolutely not.
He doesn't skate like
him.
But he tries hard. Actually, McKinnon tries pretty hard.
McKinnon's on 120%
he
every single second.
He does.
And the Norris Trophy winner just told you that fact. The Norris Trophy winner just told you, fucking watch it, because this guy cannot be stopped. And Nathan McKinnon's never been in the second round. Nathan McKinnon smells blood, and it's coming from the Shark. Good line. So, anyways, let's get into it. I mean, what we have is a bigger, slower team, more capable of physicality. And then what you have is a speedy, younger group who they probably can't handle themselves as well physically, but, they're no slouch. And what I can see is, like, how many tendons does Erik Karlsson have left in those?
Oh, come on.
In those
it doesn't matter. If it's in a meaningful game, he recovers.
Nick, I don't know what they had to inject him with to get him. This team, it just seems like they gave everything they had left into tying up and winning this series.
It really does.
I mean, what does Martin Jones have left emotionally?
It's almost like they woke up the next morning and said, "Oh shit, we have to play another series now."
Yeah, I just don't know what we're gonna see from them, and not to mention the fact that Colorado's rested. Like, San Jose's been just going bloodbath after bloodbath after let's pour in our heart and our souls. So, I mean, you could say they're more battle tested. That's the opposite argument. But I think Jared Bednar has a firm grasp on this Avalanche team. And I think that we're going to see a lot of jump from this team, and that it's going to be a good series. It's going to be a 6-gamer, but Colorado's going to take this.
They're going to win at the Pepsi Center Game 6.
Absolutely.
Whereas I would disagree. I think it can't go 6, because if it goes 6, either San Jose's winning that game. If we learned one thing on the road, winning that Game 6 in Vegas, you score a shorthanded goal in overtime. Are you kidding me? How do you do that?
This Shark Tank that you talk about, I'm not buying this.
You're not buying
baloney.
this.
I mean, you're
this
talking
is why
about,
I offered to fly you out there.
I know. You're talking about this shaking monitor and Ray Ferraro getting all scared. Well, guess what? That's because they were witnessing absolute greatness. Of course it's going to shake the damn monitor. I was looking at the game, and those fans weren't standing up for the most part. They were sitting down. So, Crowd for crowd, I think we have called a draw. Goalie for goalie, give me Grubauer.
Defense,
10
San
days out
Jose.
of days. Nope.
Shut your mouth.
I wouldn't even give them that. Their defense has been porous all fucking season.
Give me a break.
I don't trust any of those guys defensively.
They don't have a guy like Pickles on Colorado.
Sam Girard is back. You've got literally Cole paired with Makar. You've got EJ paired with Girard. You've got Barry paired with Zadorov. It's the perfect balance.
Nemeth is gone?
Yes.
He's gone.
Nemeth is out.
He's a healthy scratch.
You've got fucking a puck mover and a big guy on every fucking line. It's deadly. It's dangerous, and you better watch yourself.
What about the secondary scoring?
The secondary scoring, it was apparent. This guy, Colin Smith, this guy is a hell of a player, and nobody talks about him. This guy, he was looking like Nathan McKinnon some shifts. This guy, Colin Smith. And then I learned later that he's really big into meditating, and he's just this dojo kind of character. And he's been Tyson Jost at times looked absolutely dynamic. I don't have a problem with secondary scoring anymore. We talked about that narrative in Calgary, and it was a fucking non-existent narrative.
To me, they destroy the depth scoring department, San Jose.
Of course, looking at the rosters,
Joe Thornton's on your third line.
He's a fucking
Joe
fossil.
Thornton's a Hall of Famer.
Joe Thornton cannot skate with this team.
He's one of the greatest players of all time.
On home ice, you better watch yourself if Joe Thornton's against the
But when he's
McKinnon
playing
line.
with with Money in the Bank, Kevin LeBanc, he doesn't have to skate.
I don't think so.
LeBanc does all the skating.
I think.
Did you see LeBanc in that Game 7? He looked like he was a star.
Nick, I've never seen anybody on planet Earth skate like this Avalanche team.
I see. They don't have grit. They don't have. Who's going to step up to Evander Kane?
Zadorov.
Fuck off.
He's a hell of... Yeah, come on.
You're going to take the Russian over Evander Kane? Come on.
Well, they don't have
Evander
to... They
Kane
don't have
fought,
to play...
He fought Ryan Reeves.
I understand that.
Zadorov's not fighting Ryan Reeves.
You know what? If Evander Kane's going to play that game, be my guest, because he's not going to be scoring goals. He's going to be being
We don't need him to score goals, because Tomas Hertl and Timo Meier are going to do it for him.
Bring it on. I say.
And when they go down, Couture's going to go off.
I don't think you can cut either way on character.
No, I'm sorry, character San Jose.
No, I can't agree.
How? Where's the character on the Colorado?
It's
we talked about
everywhere.
Makar, but I don't see it other than that.
You're full of dog trash.
Do I have to listen to interviews now?
Just because we haven't seen them go through a test like San Jose does. I mean,
so if McKinnon falls,
at the end of the day,
if Landeskog falls on the ice and he's bleeding from the head, McKinnon's going to grab the towel and put it over Landeskog's
absolutely.
head. Fuck no.
Absolutely.
Fuck off.
And then he'd score the game winner.
Fuck
but,
off.
at the end of the day, San Jose put themselves in this position. San Jose went down 3-1.
They did.
San Jose should never have gotten that power play. They shouldn't be here. We should be talking about Vegas right now.
When
the referees gave them a gift.
Medal to the medal, perseverance.
Oh, sure. No,
then you play hard.
Take nothing away from their perseverance and their heroics, but they should not be here. And Colorado defeated the number 1 seed with ease. We shouldn't take away from their character because of that.
Yeah, well,
because of that.
Jury's,
so we
out
don't
on,
know.
Jury's out on whether they should have been a number 1 seed. But.
They showed extreme character last year as a fucking bullshit team. Going up against the President's Trophy winners and take him to 6 with the Hamburglar third stringer in the goaltending pit.
I like Colorado. You know I do. I've been on that train since October when I saw those games. I turned back to that Tampa Colorado game where Steven Stamkos after the game said, "We the Tampa Bay Lightning are the fastest team in the NHL, but I think we just ran into a team that's even faster than us." That's what Steven Stamkos said, and I've remembered that quote since that day.
It's pretty good.
That's a very good quote. And they can outskate San Jose, and that's what scares me. And they can out-goaltend San Jose because they got a hot goalie in Grubauer. So it's going to be very close, and I don't want to take anything from Colorado. The only reason I have to justify San Jose's case is because I think they're going to squeak over the edge. Because I just think when it gets to the end of a game like we saw against Vegas, character trumps. As Pierre said, analytics don't matter. It's all character in the playoffs. I need to stick with the team. I need to stick with the team that knocked out the Vegas Golden Knights. So I'd go into the final. Logically, that makes sense. I'm going San Jose. 7 games.
And I would expect nothing less from
Yeah,
you.
we can't. Fuck no. Like you can't see. You can't stare me in the eye and say San Jose's winning this game.
God,
and
no.
I can't stare you in the eye
I
after I just cried and say Colorado's going to win this game. Fuck off.
I have to show myself out of this room right now and
Yes.
put down the mic
Yes.
for good.
Fuck, I feel awful doing those predictions and not going with my heart.
I know.
Like, always go with your heart. What am I
Exactly.
saying?
Exactly.
I'm sure that line's been preached in hundreds of movies.
That's
Go with
the only-
your heart.
That's the only reason I won those Pittsburgh years is because I just
Go with your
liked
heart.
the team.
It's no fun going with your mind.
No.
So you can sit there with your arms crossed and be, old smart Pierre? No. Like, fucking go with your heart, and either you're wrong and you go wrong in your heart, or you're right and you feel great,
Yeah, the narrative about either when you pick against your favorite team and you're either happy or you're right.
Yeah.
It's bullshit.
Yeah.
You want both at the end of the day.
You do. So we're gonna side on that.
We're gonna move
in that
on, yeah.
department. We're
Yep,
gonna move
yep.
on. Everyone knows where we stand, and I'm sure we'll have a very passionate update when we return to this series in a week.
Mhm.
Moving on, the other series in the West. Actually, I want to end with that series
Okay.
for obvious reasons.
Okay.
We're gonna go to the series that no one's looking forward to. That's Carolina and Islanders.
Sure.
Tonight aside, as if you didn't look at the result,
Okay.
who do you like in the series?
I like the Islanders.
Hmm.
I like the fact that they're well rested. Again, the other team's gone through a war. They're well coached. I mean, I'll be honest. I did watch a bit of this game today, and it just went to remind me the fact that Matt Barzal is as smooth as a hot piece of butter. This guy is an absolute wet diaper. Sorry, I was thinking about it in the car on the way over here. Like, what could I say about this guy? Sorry. No, but he's awesome. They got the best fourth line in hockey, and they're rested. So you got a team that likes to play the body, and they're going to be capable of doing so against, again, a Carolina team that has shown amazing character. I think this is going 7. I'll put that out there.
Yeah.
Defensively, on paper, you know what? That's the thing. These teams are both great defensively. So you're going to see a lot of 2-1 games. You're going to see a lot of 1-0 games. Offense is not going to dictate the series. I'll break it down even further to Leonard versus Mrazek. Mrazek's been awesome. Great for him. But I think Leonard, as the Masterton Trophy winner, is going to pull this out. And I think this is the Islanders' year to just keep proving people wrong. So I'll go with them. X factor is going to be that fourth line and their ability to grind an already tired Carolina team.
Yeah, it's the same debate as last series, right? One team's fresh, the other team is dead tired, emotional win.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be great. I think this is going to be a great experiment series where people looking forward can go, what matters more, like emotional victory or being well rested, right? You'll look back at this series and you can use that in your evaluation moving forward. But to me, depth. I think Carolina has better depth on defense specifically.
For sure.
I love depth on defense. If you have depth on defense, you immediately have Nick in your boat. I mean, it's something I value big time. Goaltending to me is a wash. I see a tandem on both ends here, so I can't really give the edge to anyone. And then on the forward side of things, hey, Islanders have Barzal. You're right. But Carolina's got Aho. I think Aho and Barzal are very close. Very close. In different players, but very close.
Sure.
And then you look around those stars. I mean, Carolina, they've got Vintage Eberle, who's looked vintage good this series. And all those other guys, the Lees of the world, Brock Nelson of the world. And then Carolina, it's oddly similar. Like they're good players, they're just not super flashy stars, right? Teravainen, Justin Williams. It's so darn close this series. There's so many parallels. And Carolina has the better depth on defense, but then Islanders have the better structure on defense with the whole system they're employing.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck. When it's so darn close, I just go to character. So I'm going Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wearing the jersey right now. How the heart, like I said, go with your heart.
Yep.
So I'm going with my heart yet again. I'll go Carolina in Hey, it's so hard to say they can win in that building, that other building.
It's not the same one, eh? It's not.
Oh, they're in Barclays.
Good one.
Carolina and 7 then.
When I watched the game, it was ridiculous.
How different
First,
it was.
they had like a very high up over the head view, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? And then midway through the first, they changed it to the regular view. I'm like, you guys can't be changing the broadcast in the middle. This is ridiculous. And it's not the same.
That is dusty.
It's not the same atmosphere. So
that's very dusty.
They're gonna hurt from that. They've really fed off that crowd against Pittsburgh, so they're going to hurt from that. But no complaints here. I could see this going either way. I could see it being a series that at the same time, it's going to be low scoring, but I'd kind of like to watch it because of those physical matchups and the chess match that it could turn into.
One coach has the mind, like he's smarter than the other coach, and he's got the experience. But then the other coach has the passion, the fire, and the love and the fire, and I just want to side with that team.
Fair.
Like when it's so darn close, I want to side with that.
Yeah.
So Carolina.
I get it.
Alrighty. Moving on, the other matchup in the East, in my mind, the toughest to predict. I don't know if you'll agree with that, but this is very tough.
Yeah.
Boston v. CBJ.
Very tough.
Columbus Blue Jackets. The Cinderella story of the first round, knocking out the almighty John Cooper's Tampa Bay Lightning. This is tough. And again, it's that same argument, right? Fresh team against emotionally tired team. Like, this is running through this whole playoffs.
We're getting into that a lot.
Yes. And, I mean, goaltending, I don't know. I want to say I like Bobrovsky more, but Rask was great in the Leaf series. He really surprised me. I feel like he's at a different gear because he's got Halak behind him. That's changed his whole game. Defense, this one's easy. Boston. It's too darn good. It's so much depth. We saw guys like Carlo play the best hockey of his life. Guys like who's that really guy?
Sean Corrali.
Sean Corrali, he's a
Grizzlechick.
Grizzlick. Corrali's the forward. Grizzlick
right.
on defense. McAvoy and Chara duo, as you'd expect, amazing. I don't see that same depth on Columbus's defense. I know they have Werenski and Jones. I know David Savard stepped up and was a star in his series. That was awesome. And then, forwards. You see Boston. I think that Coyle line with Johansson is just getting into form right now. I think they're great. They had a great game one last night. Corrali is healthy. We saw him go bar down on, or it wasn't bar down, but it was a nice shot. I think you'd agree with that, right? On Freddie. Could you do that?
Of course.
You could do that?
Yeah. No.
Okay. That was a nice.
Come on.
That was nice. And then the top line is going to be the top line. I don't want to get too technical. Like, I don't want to look at lines too much because I did that in the Tampa series, and Columbus burnt me.
Fuck it.
So, at the end of the day, like, it's just a feel thing at this point because I know Columbus has this magic, and I know what's his face? I'm the coach.
John Tortorella.
John Tortorella.
Versus Butch Cassidy.
Yeah, versus Butch Cassidy. Tortorella is going to fire them up for every game. But I don't know. To me, I think the magic runs out. I go Boston. They're too good.
How many games?
Boston in 6 games.
Holy shit.
They'll win in Columbus.
And it's funny because we talked about how it was rested versus battle tested.
Yeah.
It's also smart coach versus fire coach in my mind.
Who's fire coach?
Tortorella.
Oh, yeah.
Tortorella's got the fire. He's got the flame.
He's not smart?
He's not I don't think he's as technically sound as Butch.
I love Tortorella because I was looking at clips the other day of his old tenure. I remember that one about him calling that guy out. Well, you probably got beat up at a bus stop back in the day, eh?
Holy shit.
The fact that guy is the same guy we're seeing right now is crazy. You saw that clip, right?
No.
I'll show you after.
I didn't see
it. It
the
was
clip.
great. He's changed so much, and it's such a pleasure to see.
That's great. I mean, he's like an endless highlight reel of silly things to say. Yes. So But I still really love this team. Like this, let's get into the goalies. Rask was good, but I think Bobrovsky has the capability of being better. And he was great against Tampa. He started off really shaky, but then he was vintage Bob. In terms of defense, Seth Jones is the best defenseman of the series.
Oh, really?
He is the best defenseman. He might be the best defenseman left in the playoffs.
Wow.
He is an absolute. With Giordano out, he is an absolute star. I think this guy has the capability to not only shut guys down, but to take over physically and to put the puck in the net. And Werenski's no slouch either. Savard, like this is a really rough and tumble, skilled defense. I'm going to give it to Boston, but it's by a hair. It's not as much as you'd think originally. And I think Chara's missed a gear. He's slow. Chara is not the guy he used to be.
But the passion's there.
The passion's
Punching
there.
Tavares in the face, the passion is there.
Oh, sure. But if I'm Tortorella, I'm saying it's going in this guy's corner every single time. We're going into Chara's corner every single time. And Chara's already been through 7 games. In terms of battle tested, this guy is not the guy you want to be playing those heavy minutes. He's not the guy for Boston that you want to be tired, is what I'm saying.
But he's playing with Charlie McAvoy.
I know, but
Star
McAvoy,
in the making, McAvoy.
McAvoy's great, but he can't always, play both sides. And McAvoy's no Seth Jones. I'll make that clear right off the bat. Second of all, the forward groups to me, they're both so good. They cancel out in a way. I don't know who to give it to here, Nick. Because I've made it clear that I love guys like, Josh Anderson, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Nick Foligno, Panarin's been himself. But at the same time, I don't think that group has the character as Boston. So I'll give the character edge to the Boston guys. But I'll say, when I look at, heights and weights and stat lines, I might go with Columbus because I love the group. I think they're playoff groomed. I think they're just perfect for this setting. And this is going to be a great series because it's 2 guys who can go skill and physicality. So it's going to be a hell of a series to watch. I might give the edge here just slightly to Boston because of that character fact.
Yeah.
And how can you bet against the Bergeron guys and the Marchands of the world?
We saw
you move Pasternak down to the second line. He's still producing. So now you've got the depth. You don't have to rely on one line. So that's awesome to see. So this is super tight for me. This is going 7 games, but I'm going to give it to the... God damn it. I'm going to give it to Columbus because of the ability of Tortorella to fire these players on an emotional level, get them firing emotionally, and the fact that they're far more well-rested. And big factor here is Chara and his missing speed.
He's big.
I think they're gonna he's the Achilles heel for me. If he plays big minutes and they're able to exploit him, it might be Butch Cassidy reeling him back and saying, listen, we got to cut you down a bit because he has the potential to be exposed here.
You know what though? But I think he'll figure out the matchups, Butch. He'll figure out how to not detract from him too much with that.
Yeah.
Like he'll find a way to utilize him in the right manner, and he has so many other toys to tinker with.
Yeah.
How he deploys Bergeron's line, Krejci's line. Actually, I think Krejci's injured, but regardless, I just feel like there's more matchups at his disposal, and he'll be able to work it all out. And like I said, McAvoy, he's a star. Related to Brian Hayes of TSN. That's the running joke at Overdrive.
Yeah.
Would you buy that?
What, McAvoy?
And Brian Hayes.
Yeah, I would buy that. I would certainly buy that.
I mean, you met the guy, right?
I did. We didn't have too many words between
Okay.
us, but he's a very nice guy.
Yeah.
He's a very nice guy.
So, yeah, I mean, to me, Boston, again, I'm going character. That's another reason I like them more. They have more character than the Columbus Crew. They just do. So, that's that. Again, we disagree. 3 for 3 so far.
This is great. I was just going to say we're disagreeing on every single series so far.
Okay,
which
final
is
series.
awesome.
Final series. I just checked. San Jose in the lead 3-2. Much
You're
to your dismay.
Full of shit.
Joe Thornton scored a goal.
I know. I'm looking at it, you piece of shit. Okay,
That's going to be cool.
Obviously, I'm staying for the third. Come on.
Fine. Okay. Even though this segues nice into why I want you out of my house.
I know. I get
tomorrow I am on my way. I got the producer of the Rink Moose podcast to sign off on this. I am being deployed to St. Louis, Missouri to cover Dallas, St. Louis on behalf of Rink Moose. It's a huge honor. Nice. I'm going to get to see the players in the dressing room, interview them, see what the character's like, interview Jake Allen, find out what his mental space is at, just sitting on the bench this whole series. Meet Pierre. I know he's going to be there for the matinee tomorrow afternoon. Get a drink with him maybe after the game. We'll see.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, I'm stoked for this, not only from a personal level, but from just a Blues fan level. Again, I think this team has magic behind them. They have the best winning song of all the teams, Gloria, by it's an old song back in the day, but it's the best winning song. And
these things don't matter.
It's character. It's a character. Like the guys choose these songs. It just speaks about who they are. The point is, this team has magic about them. Binnington has stepped up. He's proved us wrong by beating the Winnipeg Jets, by stepping up to Scheifele and Wheeler, not stepping down to those mooks. And you see the depth, the Jaden Schwartz on the second line, it's paid off. The Maroons on the fourth line, the character there, it's paid off. The way Craig Berube is running his bench, tough guy Berube, I love it very much. The top line is maybe not scoring all the goals, but they're getting the job done. O'Reilly's been as good as anybody in the face-off draw. I think that's going to be key. Not enough talent on the Dallas team. I'm sorry. I love Ben.
Careful, because we shit on this team.
And I know. And I'm going with, Rupert Hines, he's built like Ben, but he skates better than Ben. That's how I sum up Rupert Hines. He's like, he's a stud.
Wait.
This kid's a stud.
Rupert
Hines. Hintz. Okay. I don't know how the fuck you pronounce it, but he's got my respect.
Right. Okay.
And Rupert Hintz, Sagan, Ben, Radulov. It's a great group, but it doesn't have the depth. It doesn't have the number of names I can list off as St. Louis.
Of course.
Defense, it's not even close. The best defensive team in hockey against this team that's got Klingberg and Heiskanen as their top two and a bunch of other no names. And then the goaltending, I don't even know if it's an advantage for Dallas. Because
he's a Vezina
finalist. young Bynington has stepped up, as we said, and he's proved us all wrong. He was a stud last night. He was a stud in that game. He closed them out. Dante's nodding his head right now. He is all aboard this Pietrangelo-led St. Louis bandwagon. I love it so much.
Suck him off.
This is the biggest one-sided series of all of them. St. Louis in 5.
You son of a bitch. Are we going to go 4 for 4? Disagree here?
You're not picking Dallas. That's such a bad pick. You have no reason to pick Dallas just other than to piss me off. You don't like this team.
Right.
Everyone heard you last week.
You're right.
You don't like this team.
You're right. But what if they changed my mind? No, they didn't change my mind.
Did you watch any of Nashville, Dallas?
No.
Then they haven't changed your mind.
Nick, listen. I think you're overrating St. Louis, but I think you're right on point with Dallas. Except, I think you're underrating Dallas's D. I think Dallas's D is a lot better than you think. I think they have some stability back there. Listen, they're a good defensive team, and their goaltending is fantastic. Again, we're going with the tried and true guy versus the, let's face it, Binnington wasn't amazing in the Winnipeg series. He didn't really shut the door or anything. If you look at his numbers, they were only like 9-10. What is his number? 9-10 or below that.
But he's clutch. He makes timely saves. It's not about quantity and shots against. It's timely saves. He makes timely saves. He was outstanding in that game last night in the end.
The other thing, I need to note this. I would not be doing my job if I didn't note this. Sagan and Ben and Radulov, this group, especially Sagan and Ben, has been waiting for this for about 5 years. Ever since Sagan got to Dallas and this became a legitimate team with legitimate offense, we've seen Jamie Benn address the fans and say, guys, listen, it's coming. Just please be patient. We've seen a whole lot of stuff happen, and we've seen the owner or the CEO, whatever the fuck you want to call him, just rip his stars to shreds. And did they back down? No. They actually improved. When Jim Nill or whoever the fuck said it, they said, our players are shit. Why aren't Sagan and Ben getting a lot of points? I don't like this.
Like a baby.
And what did they do, man? They, especially Sagan, he picked his game up. These guys responded, and I totally respect that. And I think those forwards in particular, this leadership group, is hungrier than any group. Maybe not hungrier, but as hungry as any group in the league. So I'm not going to count them out like you are. I'm going to say this is going to 6, maybe even 7. And I'll take St. Louis.
Yay! St. Louis is going to the conference final.
So we're 3-1.
And you're shocked to hear that, because I remember you were shocked that I had them going to the conference final last week.
No.
You're like, St. Louis, you got them in the conference final.
No, I didn't say that.
You did?
No,
hey,
I didn't.
Run the tape. Dante, run the tape.
Run the tape. It wasn't. I was surprised because I was so confident in Winnipeg.
Okay. But now you're looking at them and you're like, this is an easy path.
No, for me, St. Louis is now going to the conference finals.
Yes.
My dream is going to be you versus me, St. Louis, Colorado, and just a war. Like if
we got a war. This is the first battle. We got to get through
Who do you like more,
Jose.
St. Louis or San Jose?
Who do I like more?
Who owns Nick's heart more? I know you just cried.
Oh, I cry. I mean, I love both teams.
What if St. Louis did that? You would have cried as well.
Yeah. I don't know. My heart's with both teams, but who's the better team? Like, I put on my Pierre glasses on?
No. Who do you like more?
Ooh, Kyle, you can't do that to me on the air. Like, that's your hurt. That's emotionally troublesome. You can't do that.
It's like choosing between two kids.
Oh, that's tough, man. Like,
who would be the better Kyle versus Nick matchup? Colorado versus who?
St. Louis, they already have a rivalry with.
Plus, it'll be the West Finals.
They're in the same division.
West Finals would be great.
Finals.
This is my dream.
No, they have a rivalry going back to Game 82 a few years ago, right?
Yes.
When they ousted Jake Allen and the Blues in Game 82. We watched that game together.
So
there's more history there. I think that's why it's a better rivalry. It would be more of a battle. But like I said, St. Louis is getting to the next stage easy. Colorado has their work cut out for them. So
do they?
That's the problem.
I'm not sure.
That's the problem.
I'm not sure they do.
Cale Makar is melting under that San Jose sun right now.
Cale
take it.
Cale Makar's already got an assist.
I know, but he's melting. What's his minus?
This rookie defenseman.
What's his plus minus?
Well, he hasn't been on the ice for a goal.
Last time I checked, McKinnon only had a shot on goal. Pickles must be shutting him down pretty good.
I doubt it.
Okay, well, regardless, this conversation goes to show you how eager we are to tune into this game right now. They're about to head into the third period. On that note, Kyle...
And then overtime. Double overtime, so you don't get to sleep.
I'm going to bed. I got to cover the series for Rink Moose tomorrow. So, yeah, needless to say, I think that's all the ground we had to cover today, Kyle. Is that right?
It is. And Makar's a +1, by the way.
Makar's a +1. Okay.
What else is new?
We'll see what happens when we talk...
With 2 shots... Go
on.
Sorry.
We'll see what happens when we get back to this conversation in a week from now. But until then, thank you for tuning in yet again to this special live edition of episode 37 of the Rink Moose podcast. There's going to be great stories from the gateway to the West, the city of St. Louis, on next show. So we look forward to letting you know about our respective road trips through the Midwest. And until then, Rink Moose is signing off.